Hello, everyone, and happy Monday. Or I rather prefer to call it Second Sunday. We all know how I feel about Mondays, but anyway, today we've got quite a few updates from everything we did last week. Yeah, all three updates last week on DayBell, Vallow, Masterson, and Manson all dropped stuff immediately after the update. So this will be a compilation of the things that we missed to keep you up to date. And I think I'm going to start with the couple, Lori Vallow DayBell and Chad Daybell. Right after the Chad Daybell update on Monday, the Lori Vallow's team did a mass filing to the judge. Now, it wasn't that it was filed that night. What's going on over there is that because they're making the documents public to everyone because it's a high profile case, there seems to be like a 4 to 5 day delay into when things get uploaded that we can know about it. And what had happened is Lori Vallow's team has asked for a stay, an extension, have asked for a continuation based on her not being able to sit for trial. Now, we know that recently, just a few months ago, because that's why the trial went forward and got scheduled for January, was that they declared Lori competent. Through the mental health, released her. She went through all the testing. They had the motion hearings. They officially went through the indictment charges, arraignment, and got the thing going and just put it all together again. And it went forward through those months, now scheduled for January. However, now we have a privacy order, a protection order on there for some of the documents to be redacted as to the reasons and what's going on with her, but that she is asking for a continuation and to delay the trial. She's going to be pulling back on that issue that she would like it expediently. Previously, she had not released her right for a speedy trial. Which was in conflict to Chad Daybell, who said that he wanted to wait. His attorneys are saying they need more time to prepare because of the gravity of the charges, and that if he's found guilty, it'll be a death penalty case, and it's quite serious, and they want more time. And they are actually petitioning quite well to have the cases severed. His rights versus her rights when they have conflict like this on what they want. One of the instances was the delay in trial. One of the others was the camera usage. Chad Daybell's attorneys have also, even though Rule 45 says you cannot appeal the no camera rule, they are pushing to have the trial separated between Lori Vallow DayBell and Chad Daybell, 2 separate trials, so that he can have cameras. He wants everything out there. And his attorneys brought up the families of the victims in support of it. At this point, with everything going on, and now with her not being able to sit for trial in January, it does look like I can't see why the judge will not allow that continuance when you say that you can't. I mean, it would be not in their best interest to force the trial for the 2 of them in January if she says she's not capable. It's almost an automatic that continuation is probably going to go. And it's looking stronger that the cases may be separated. Now, I understand why the state wants to try them together. It's financially lucrative to do it together because less expense, etc. There's the less presenting of evidence. There's bringing it all together. But is it fair for the defendants, though? Because they now are going to be bound together with all the evidence. It's going to be hard to say who's responsible for what. Their defense is limited. It's come out from Chad Daybell's filings by his attorneys that there is the possible that they'll bring up the defense that what if Lori and her brother are the ones that conspired all this on their own and they had separate plots? We have no idea. It doesn't have to be all of us. In other words, we want to be able to point the finger back and forth, and you're kind of inhibiting our ability to do that right now by keeping us together in the same trial. It makes it difficult to do. In a way, their rights are compromised somewhat by being tried together, because we're not sure who did what. And there's also a great risk of appeal. So here you are. The question is, shall we separate the trials now and have two trials? Or shall we have this trial together and then go through appeal and have another trial anyway, separately or together? That's the question. So it's looking more and more. I'm not an attorney. I tell you that all the time. Nope, not even a paralegal, but I do pay very close attention to what all of the other lawyers are saying. And I speak to a few paralegals, and I actually can see that it's probably in the best interest currently, with all of this going on, for justice, for the trials to be separated, to have two trials. We might have one where there's no cameras and one where there are cameras. We might have no cameras altogether. It's going to be interesting either way. This has been a hot mess from the beginning. Lori has been in and out of a facility from the start. So it's not a surprise that this came up again. And how long it will delay anything going forward is anyone's guess at this time. Jujubee, that's going to be up to how they preclude what information about Lori is out. Right now, all the reasons for her not being able to sit for trial are redacted. If you go look at the documents on the public site, they've all been blacked out. All of the reasons, what's going on with her. They are saying she's not able, but they're not saying mentally, or anything like that. They're not saying she's in a facility. They're not saying she's under treatment. No details whatsoever. The ability for Chad's team to mention it will come up in pretrial hearing, in motions, and whether or not, usually because that's protected. If it is a mental condition, that's protected under Privacy of Health and Information Act. And so it usually gets clamped down pretty tough. They may be able to mention the delay, but not the reason, if you get what I mean. It's going to be up to the judge in how the motions go. I'm sure each side is going to petition one way or another for it, Yeah, always. Can you see that it does look like it's pretty much, the way. Yeah. That it's probably going to be best and more expedient. Even though Chad Daybell's team is asking for more time, they'll be able to schedule it because he's competent to sit. They'll be at least able to move forward with some of that. I think the prosecution is worried. The state is worried that without all the evidence being presented against both of them, there's going to be that finger pointing thing back and forth, and that is going to lead to doubt. And I understand why they want to keep it together. It looks like everybody's agreeing. Jujubee says, I think they should be separated as well. It would give Chad a stronger case. That makes sense. And that would be private medical information. Exactly. It would give Chad a stronger case because he would be able to say what he did and what he didn't do. But it would also give Lori a stronger case, what she did and what she didn't do. Separation of the cases is only going to benefit the defendants. It does not benefit the prosecution at all. From what I see, anyway, the prosecution has a stronger case together. But in order to do justice, the judge has to decide what's going to protect the defendant's rights also, because they don't want this coming up for appeal. They don't want their judgments, their opinions coming up under scrutiny and be used for appeal. So, they're going to weigh it out, but it looks like it's just going to be another hot mess. But that's the update there. There's been finger pointing from the Chad Daybell's attorneys to Lori Vallow and her brother, hinting at a conspiracy. Of course, they haven't provided anything, but it is laid out in their motion to the court, that they are limiting their options for a defense by keeping the trial together. They are also hindering their opportunity to have an open courtroom for the families of the victims and everyone, so that everybody can see anything. Um, but no, you go cover Lori's trial in person for us. No, no, thank you. I never thought I would actually do live coverage of a trial until Deb heard, but now I'm looking forward to doing another one, but not as extensively. I mean, it does take over your whole life, and I kind of like what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, and I don't want to give it over to Lori Vallow. Sorry, I really like you guys, but no, we do need someone honest on the inside. Jujubee, I nominate you in return. There you go. We could work something out for the channel. Mm. Hello, hello, little mouse girl. Thanks for being here. And Sandy, I see. Hey. And Liam, thank you for coming. And Turtle Moose, thank you for being here also. I'm sorry to anyone I did not acknowledge as you came in. I'm kind of got a lot to cover here today, so I was paying attention to my multiple tabs that I have open up here. But I appreciate all of you. So basically, if the question is on just the separation, but they did actually bring it even more forward, by making this, saying it's going to interfere with their defense, and then actually readdressing the cameras, which is really not open for debate. It's not open for appeal in Idaho once that happens. But if they do get separated, I guess then it would be okay. How can they redact medical information that may be used to keep her out of trial? What they do is they don't make it public. They don't redact it inside to the prosecution and or the judge. All of it is open to them, but it's not open to any of us. And so they kind of clamp it down that way. They do have to disclose everything to the judge and to Chad Daybell's side as to why she's not there. Or why she's petitioning. And I know it's a serious question, because it does seem strange that if you're going to use that for the excuse, how do you not get to say what the excuse actually is for, or the reason, not excuse, reason, why you're not there. And it is a valid, serious question. It's all disclosed in-house, just like we're going to have with Manson too. Some things are going to be private, and we're not going to know about it. And things are getting dicey over there too. But when it comes to personal health issues, and especially mental health, it is guarded quite well. We had that in several other trials where the actual information, they would talk about not being able to disclose it. They would talk about there being some kind of situation, but they would not give any details, and nor was it allowed to be presented as evidence or presented or used against them in any way. This way, Chad Daybell can use the situation to separate his trial from Lori Vallow, and bring it to consideration to the judge, as they have. And Lori can get an extension and not sit for trial right now in January. What it looks like is no one wants to go to trial in January from the defendants, not Chad Daybell and not Lori Vallow's team either. Nobody wants that January hearing date to happen. The trial does not want to be started in January. And then whether or not they actually will have it together or separated, that's going to be a motion that's going to come soon. And as soon as we hear about that, I'll let you guys know, because if it goes like last week, that should be any time now. It'll pop up on the site. But basically, that's what we got going on with the two of them. I thought that the speculation of Lori Vallow being in cahoots with her brother Alex Cox, who is no longer with us, is going to be that's going to be interesting, because there's no one here to testify with her that it's not true, and it's all just speculation. It's going to be a he said, she said, and kind of suspected that all along. And it's just going to be it's going to be a mess. Let's just say it that way. We'll just put it that way. Thank you, Robski. It's sweet you even noticed. All right. So let's just move along. Okay. There's some things that I want to talk about in the next one. What do you want next? You want Masterson, or you want Masterson, or would you like to have Manson first? Because they're both pretty I'll let you guys decide. Manson. Okay. All right. So, all right. We'll get you 1 sec. All right. So for Marilyn Manson, after we did the update on Marilyn Manson, there wasn't any like new filings, but other things came forward. Okay. One of them, very distressing for me, was the fact that, currently I am not able at all to get into the cases for Esme Bianco and Jane Doe. And what that kind of means is that they did have agreed with Manson and Esme Bianco, they had prior listed that they wanted to actually put a protection order on some of the filings and all. Based on the type of depositions that would be given and who would be coming up. Now, this is coming to light because of Ashley Walters and Ashley Smith-Klein. Both the Ashleys need to do depositions in the Esme Bianco case. Okay. And also, Manson's attorneys would like Walters to actually be deposed in the Wood case and Smith-Klein also, because they do feel that there was conversations there. They have evidence of conversations there between all of them. And it kind of alludes to the collusion, to the actual organization of all of this in the Wood case. Okay. But as far as the Bianco case, Walters, Esme Bianco has made some allegations in there that do involve Ashley Walters as being present or giving some type of information. So her deposition is necessary. However, they're trying to say that Ashley Walters is saying that the information that she would give is so private that it would put her at risk, and this, that, and the other thing. And what Manson's attorneys rightly are saying is that there's a protection order. Like, you got to go do the deposition anyway, and we'll keep it under wraps, and only the people necessary will see it. But we've already made allowances with the judge, with Esme Bianco's team and our team to allow for this kind of stuff, to allow for the protection of that. So that's not going to work. Ashley Walters is often put through her own case stuff without like the attorney, without filing properly. Like, her case got dismissed. I don't know what she's thinking, but she doesn't follow proper procedure. That is all I can say about that. I have, or rather, I should say, I have not seen any proper procedure during this whole thing from her, so that things got done and she got protected properly. But I think she's still going to have to do the depositions. But right now, we're not going to be able to see anything, because if you go to Pacer and you pull up the cases, they come up with an error. You can't get to the case anymore. You cannot get to Esme Bianco's case right now. And I don't know if it's because they're cleaning up, like they're redacting files or pulling files off that have been now asked to be cloaked under this protection order of information. In that case, they would have to review, and go through, and I can understand that. Maybe some of it will be open again, but for now, we don't have the bird's eye view we had prior. So we have to wait until things come out, and they're coming out slowly. They really are. Okay. There was a very good video done by Southern Law that kind of explains how they protect this kind of stuff. And I'm going to drop it here for you to watch in your free time if you'd like. I did get quite a few points from him. I do like the way he explains things. It's very simple English. For a lawyer, it's really, really great. That he just puts it out in just straight, simple English. Right. Mm-hmm. I don't know why we're talking about killing zombies in the chat. Okay. Okay. You might not if you are mentally unwell and think they are. This is true because Lori, you're talking about Lori Vallow. She did claim that everyone was zombies and that's why they had to be eliminated, that they were compromised and there was no hope for them. They weren't going to come back. And so, that was something she was saying. And now Liam is saying killing zombies is self-defense. Deciding to kill some and not others would imply an understanding of the distinction. Exactly, Liam. Exactly. And I understand what you're saying. There's a difference. She only killed the two, claiming they were zombies, and yet she claimed so many people were zombies. And that's a very fair point. I agree. I definitely agree. Hello and welcome, Charlie. And Renee and me. Hello. Welcome. All right. So back to Manson. Because of this secret evidence that we're not going to be able to see and the things that are going on, it looks like there's going to be more delays in both the Esme Bianco case and the Jane Doe case. Now, Jane Doe has a very privated case because almost everything that gets submitted in her name would have her name, and she doesn't want her name out there. And so there is a lot going back and forth between the Manson camp and the Jane Doe camp in regards to what gets released and what's not. And that could be, just actually having the fact that depositions are going to happen and names are going to be mentioned, that could be why it got pulled from Pacer right there with that protection order. And that would be a very good reason. She's under the cloak of anonymity, and she has every right to be until she's right there in court in front of a judge. And that would probably be a closed court also if she can show them that she feels that her life would be compromised by her name being out there. Manson will be able to know who it is because he's allowed to, because you have to be able to face your accuser. But it would be limited to just the necessary parties, I would imagine. And that was all going, that all has to still play out. But because you can't get to both of those Pacer files, I think that it's being worked out as we speak. They are getting farther along. Either way, I don't see. We have motions going to be heard on in December on the Wood case with Manson in regards to the anti-slap with Evan Rachel Woods and Ilya Gore. That Manson is going to be defending against to make sure that the case is still going to go forward. So we're going to wait on that. And limited discovery is going on with that. But we're still waiting for depositions from Ashley Smith-Kline. Remember, she contacted Howard King in the Manson camp after she separated from her attorney, which was the same attorney, that's the same attorney that Esme Bianco had. And there was a bit of a conflict and a mess there on who fired who and when he left and was he actually representing her, all messing up the fact that the depositions still haven't happened. Smith-Kline has been ordered to have her deposition by the end of October. So I guess we'll see on that. Well, anyway, that is the updates on Manson. And so now we're going to move on. The biggest news I have is the trial that starts tomorrow with jury selection. We're going to go on to Daniel Masterson. Now, you know that this case, this case gives me agita, a little bit, because like there is so much going on with him. Just I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can. Okay. But when it comes to them, doing the crazy stuff, the shenanigans. Okay. Now, I'll just say that the attorneys for Masterson are creative. I won't really call shenanigans or foul here. I'm just going to use the word creative because some of it, although it gives me a giggle, is quite ingenious. I mean, trying to get the word Scientology out of the whole case when pre-trial hearings were all about Scientology. I don't know. I mean, they're the ones that submitted the Book of Ethics from Scientology. I mean, Masterson's team did that. Okay. And now they're crying foul about it because it's in. All right. And they don't want Scientology mentioned. Now, of course, today they were in court again with more motions because the jury selection is tomorrow. And they had to decide on jury questionnaires and things like that. And I told you, I get a lot of my information from Tony Ortega. And he's been doing Scientology work for years. He's well versed in it. He knows everything about it. He knows all the players. And he actually went to the court today. And he gave us a little summation on some of the stuff that's like, and if you're going to subscribe to anything in regards to following all of the many Scientology legal cases that are going on, and I hate to tell you, but there's quite a bit. Sorry, Scientology, but yeah, I get to mention it. I'm not part of the court. There are quite a few. There are so many civil suits right now that I am following, and then even with this Masterson criminal case, the actual plaintiffs that the state is representing, the victims in this case, do have a civil case against Scientology at the same time that's going on in regards to them not being able to file against criminal charges when the events happened. And so there's that. There's several other. There's a child trafficking one. There's a child labor law ones. There's quite a few. The Claire Headley. There's quite a few, and they're going to keep coming up. And it's going to come up in the Masterson case. And unfortunately, his attorneys have a big, hill to climb with that because, in a way, they're right. The reason they don't want Scientology mentioned is the way everybody feels about Scientology. And that actually became quite evident in jury selection because the judge had a 2-page jury questionnaire that she wants to give because in her thinking, she just wants to know, are you going to be here? Do you have an excuse not to be here? Have you heard about the case? Do you qualify in any way? She wants to narrow the pool right away before they get into the nuts and bolts of it, But apparently the prosecution and the defense both submitted rather lengthy questionnaires, and the judge was just like, whoa, what is this about? And so she's asking them to explain. And actually, the defense for Masterson, and that would be Goldstein today. Karen Goldstein was representing today. She explained her 20-page questionnaire. She said it's necessary. And it's necessary because, and I'm going to quote this because it was Brill. Okay. She said, we have an almost perfect storm of prejudice here. When you combine, number one, the scathing views that the public has of the Church of Scientology with the extensive pre-trial publicity and the heinous allegations, well, that definitely qualifies for extensive questionnaires to the jury. She says they got a hill to climb. And she's right. Are we all to be blamed for the terrible views that people have about Scientology? I don't think so. Wouldn't Scientology be to blame for that? And blame Scientology, not us. Like there are going to be jurors that know of Scientology. Danny Masterson was an actor. There are going to be people that know who Danny Masterson is. Okay. We can't help this. Okay. If you can get as fair a trial as you can, but you cannot prevent all bias. You cannot prevent all publicity. And I'm sorry, it's been like it was Scientology and everybody fighting so hard to keep Danny Masterson from facing these criminal charges that put it out in the public. And you can't cry foul now. Like, come on, you can't have it both ways. Okay. You did your PR too. Okay, and you continue to. I mean, it's just going to be that way. It's a very public trial. Now, I don't think it's going to be televised or anything like that. It's a criminal case. We'll see what happens. But the jury selection is going to start tomorrow, right on schedule, and they're going to start it minimally. There were some other things that came up. Of course, we had to talk about the Book of Ethics again that was submitted by the defense into evidence and then used by the prosecution to help prove why the women did not come forward in black and white. They found the actual, in the Book of Ethics, the actual code that says you can't go against a higher up, how you can't go to civil authorities outside of Scientology on anything, including a crime. It's in black and white. They got nailed with that. And they submitted it themselves and then cried foul. And, oh well, sorry, you brought it in. It's open. Should have thought about that. They're trying to say, no, you can't use a religious doctrine. You can't use our religion against us. Well, you can when your religion is asking people to break the law or invading their human rights, their personal First Amendment rights, to protect themselves, to be able to go out and tell somebody that somebody did a crime against them. I mean, come on, their rights were gone against. I mean, and you're complaining that your book that actually says that that's the way it is being used against you. Well, you wrote the book and you put the book in evidence yourself. So, like, how are we supposed to actually give you grace for that? I can't. I think that's kind of ridiculous to even ask for it. But when I say creative, let me tell you about creative. Okay. Cohen, another one of the attorneys, wanted to refer to Danny as Danny in the trial. I could see why. It makes him personable. It makes them understand him as the actor and not the accused. It puts his personality and his likability from film out there. When you say Danny, it's so much nicer. It's like you know him, and then you try to remember how he was, and that could all go in his favor, right? But the judge was like, I would really prefer you refer to your client as Mr. Masterson. And he just said, I don't want to use it all the time. I'm just here and there. And she's like, I would really prefer you stick to the formal Mr. Masterson. And I can understand why Judge Almeida was saying that, because yes, let's, nice try, but that's a little prejudicial. That's going a little bit the other way. They did talk about how much of the ethic books is going to come in after they talked about that. And they decided that only in proving the allegations of why the women came forth, the women could mention where they saw or where they learned or why they felt they could not come forward. And that's how the Book of Ethics will come in. But whether or not the Book of Ethics will be in there on display page by page and used like over and over, no, that's not going to happen. They're not going to put the religion of Scientology on trial. Okay. No. That is, Judge Almeida is walking that line. And actually, the defense actually came forward and says, how are you going to do that? Like, how are you going to protect Scientology as a religion from coming on fire here? And it's impossible. And Judge Almeida basically told the defense, watch me, because that is her main goal, is to make sure it doesn't go to appeal. Now, she's going to let the evidence come in that needs to come in. Okay, but she's not going to give you a free ticket just because Scientology is involved and it happens to be a religion. I mean, that book is pertinent in regards to how those victims felt they couldn't come forward. And she's right. They wrote it. They used it with those women. Those women have a right to say how they felt that way, why they felt that way, where they got the information that was the appropriate thing to do. And so that's all coming under fire, fairly so. But they don't like it because, some people just don't like when their own words are used against them. It's a common thing. Yeah. But, oh, gosh. And so what? Oh, gosh, I have so many notes here on this one. This is like crazy. But also, Judge Almeida, she's doing her best to be as unbiased and keep things as fair as possible, but she wants things going forward. So they're going to start jury selection tomorrow. They're probably going to use, they added a few questions on there. Okay. They are going to be able to say, have you heard about this trial and what have you heard, to find out how much of the publicity out there could be damaging. Okay. And, you know, one of the things that came up in the trial, which Judge Almeida took exception to, because it wasn't in the questionnaires to the jurors. Okay. But it was brought up that it was not in the defense's questions, but it was brought up by the defense that the juror could be prejudiced in their opinions of Scientology, that it was going to go unfairly against Danny Masterson because Scientology forces people to have abortions, and that's public knowledge. And then the judge is like, why are we talking about this? Like, that's not even one of your questions on your questionnaire. Like, and what does that have to do with this? And basically the defense was trying to show that just the word Scientology and their own practices were going to actually be prejudicial against Danny Masterson. And it's like, no. I mean, you can't stop people from thinking things about Scientology when Scientology does stuff. And then you can't stop people from actually talking about it later. And I'm sorry that Danny Masterson's attorneys feel that that's going to be so prejudicial to him. And in a way it is, because let's face it, Danny Masterson was a Scientologist. He can't separate from that now. He can't. He was. Okay. And at the time of the crime, he was. And did he benefit from being a Scientologist in regards to when these crimes allegations came forward? Yes, he did. The allegations were not made against him for years. Okay. Now, I'm not going to say he's guilty and that he's benefited, he's getting away with anything. But I mean, to cry foul and prejudice because of Scientology about it when you are a Scientologist for all those years, well, it's a little cake and eat it too kind of situation. Not going to happen. I mean, you're going to get the best justice that you can, as fair as you can. But we can't rewrite history for you, dude. Like, we can't. We just can't. Okay. Oh, yeah, Jujubee, I heard that they're not a fan right now. Yeah, I can say. Yeah. It may be the way it may be the shenanigans that are going on in the court, and it could be those big losses as far as the Supreme Court not wanting to hear that they're being pushed on because they're a religion, and that book being in does make them look bad. Okay. So I would imagine that there's some feelings either way there, you know. Hey, Mrs. Cassandra, thank you. Hi, Tammy, nice of you. Sean, nice of you here. Okay, so all right, I have a little bit more actually. There's more. There's more. There's been some talk about the witnesses. Remember, I told you there's all these witnesses that they're talking about that they don't want to dispose, like what's going to happen or whatever, or whether it's going to come in. They're talking about using Claire Headley, maybe only in rebuttal, maybe only if it comes up as needing an expert as to why the women thought the policies were a certain way. And I understand that they don't want her testimony as much. I understand the defense's objections to that because she does have a suit against Scientology at the time. It's well known. It's well publicized. It's going to be hard for people not to bring that into it, even if it's not spoken of. So I get that. But there was another one that's been mentioned. Lisa Marie Presley was a friend of one of the victims at the time, and her boyfriend was a friend of one of the victims at the time, and may have been either heard about the case or somewhere related to the incident, either before, during, or after. And she may be called to testify also. So, that was news. I had not heard her name come up directly prior to that. That also was coming directly from Tony Ortega's The Underground. or the bunker. So it is there that she's going to have to give some information, and that she is on the list. So along with quite a few other people, there are actually big donors in Scientology that were informed of the situation. But here's the thing: all three victims say they went to someone in Scientology and tried to report what happened to them, and that they were discouraged. And because of the delay in the filing of the charges, and here's something that not a lot of people are talking about: these charges could not be brought individually. Even though they had an exemption because of the delay, it still was beyond the time of the extension. They could only be brought if all three of them are brought together, because of it's a pattern. Okay. And it fell into a loophole that way. So prosecution is bringing them all three together on purpose. Okay. But it is the only way that they can try Danny Masterson for this. And the only way that he will go to jail is if he's convicted of two of the three. If it's only one, he probably won't. Okay. But if he does get convicted of all three, it is 45 years, which is life. Because it's a three-strike thing. But it's like a loophole there. They could not bring the cases separately against him. Okay. And that's not been yeah, life in prison, Mrs. Cassandra. That's what I'm talking about. 45 years is what we call life in prison here in America. And yeah, if it's all three, but even to be considered jail at all, he has to have two out of the three. And that was something that uh, I just learned about in the last week or so, was actually why I started investigating why they weren't able to separate the three cases out, because two of them are listed as Jane Doe 1 and 2. Jane Doe 3, her name is actually known out there. She released it herself after he released it in some information that he released back early on, like in 2017 or so, when this was all going on. He released her name about the incident all over. So she felt it wasn't really worth it to try to hide it, because it was already known. It was just ridiculous, even though they filed under Jane Doe 3 with the state. She's been saying it's her, and it's been confirmed that it is. When they speak of the victims in the paperwork and in the motions and all, they do have little names for them and everything, but we're not speaking on those names. Their anonymity, if they want it as a victim, should be protected. I believe that. I really do. I actually, okay, don't come for me, YouTube, but I actually believe in these types of cases that even the accused deserves anonymity, if so wanted. Okay. I do, until things are said and done. Because let's face it, if someone like Danny Masterson is up on 3 charges like this, a public figure, okay, and I'm not going to say like whether he did or he didn't, but let's just hypothetically say he didn't. Look at what happened to his life already. What's going to happen after? You know what I mean? It's like, it causes so much damage. Look what happened in the Depp Heard trial, all those kind of allegations. You should not be able to make these kind of allegations publicly. Look what's happening to Manson, whether he did or didn't. You can't say that it hasn't affected him financially, personally, mentally, physically, any of them. Now, that's not to say that the victims haven't also suffered and that they don't have a right to come forward and do charges, and they do. But public humiliation, public targeting, even though I'm doing a show on it, I actually am not for it. I know that sounds weird, but that's the way the laws are right now. And I would actually vote for a law that would keep them all out of the media until things were said and done. I would. But ruining a life on an accusation is nothing. I'm trying to be fair here. My issue with Danny Masterson is not with Danny Masterson. It's with the reason I'm covering this case. It's not the allegations. It is the interference of Scientology. That was the legal hook I went through. Yes, it's a case about abuse. um heinous allegations, like they said. Um, do I know or have seen evidence that anything that he's done it? No, there are only statements from the victims. Okay. Do I choose to believe the victims right now? I believe they think something happened. They wouldn't be here if they didn't. Do I think they were wronged by Scientology? Absolutely. They were denied their day in court. They were denied the ability to come forward and press charges when they were wronged. They felt they were wronged. So if there's a target of mine in this case, Scientology is right. They're it. Tag. They did the damage to. They did not do the crime of the allegation. This is true. But their interference is definitely what has got it on my show, because I don't cover this kind of stuff unless there's something really going on about it. Same thing with Manson. Okay, it looks like it was organized. It looks like it was targeted. I'm trying to be as fair as I can, but we've caught Evan Rachel Woods in an outright lie. Okay, I saw him for myself, her walking around in a Hitler mustache and making jokes and being all funny about this stuff, and then trying to claim that she was abused over it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Ah, it just makes me feel a certain way. And that was the problem with that, is that it does look a little orchestrated. It does look a little sensationalized, dramatized, and targeted. And I don't think that's fair. Let me go over some of the questions here. I'm sorry, I've been ignoring the chat. But it's very interesting about the witnesses coming forward. They're actually, it's going to get dicey for Scientology, because they got large donors involved in this case now that could be called in as witnesses and have to speak. And they may have to be treated as hostile because they are very pro Scientology. And I'm wondering how that's going to happen. Would it be a legal precedent for a secret religious book to be taken into evidence in a trial? Is it secret if every member pays for it? It's not a secret if it's known to all the members, right? So they're saying that it's putting their religion on trial. They're not saying that it's secret and they have to keep it hidden. Although it does, by putting it out there, it does kind of deflect from like what gets paid for in Scientology with that whole like chain thing they do. Like, before you even sign your contracts and everything like that, you don't even know what the religion's about, because you have to start paying to be taught what the religion is, like what their beliefs are. So, it's quite confusing. It is, but I don't know. The legal precedent's already been set here, and the legal precedent was, if you enter it into evidence, you can't call foul when somebody uses it against you. That was well documented. So, that precedent was set like for a long time, years and years and years. Like, no takey backies. Like, you don't get to take it back. You presented it as evidence, which means everybody gets to use it. It's not like evidence, but nobody gets to look. You can't have it both ways. Okay. This is true, Liam. They are not actually trying the church beliefs. And this is what Judge Almeida keeps saying. We're going to talk about it, but we're not actually going to put their beliefs on trial. We're going to talk about what they did to constrict the rights of other people, period. And, to report of the victims to report the crime. Exactly. Just their actions as they pertain to the ability of the victims to report the crime. That's exactly it. And that is the line that Judge Almeida is drawing there. And I'm very proud of her. She's sticking to it, and she pushes back on them every time. Every time. And she's doing a good job. She's doing a really good job of that. And she is holding the law there. She is actually holding the law quite well. This is, they're allowed to actually do this, Jujubee. There's no law against them paying for their travel or whatever if it's part of the legal team. But this is what Juju is saying. She has heard, but she doesn't know that they probably aren't. But the witnesses' legal fees are being funded by the church. All rumor. I heard it on the Growing Up in Scientology channel. That is an ex-Scientologist, Aaron, in Growing Up Scientology, and he usually talks about pretty factual stuff. I wouldn't say it like it's written in stone, but if he says there's some way that the money is being reimbursed, there possibly could be. And it wouldn't actually be illegal if those witnesses need an attorney, okay, to come forward. I guess it would be okay to fund it. The defense, it's okay for them to do travel, to this, do everything like that, because obviously for the prosecution, there are funds for the victims to bring them to trial, and for victims' families for travel fees and all, so that you can attend the court cases. So the defense would have to do it out of their own pockets. There's not like an organization to do it, but if they chose to help they pay for expert witnesses, and that's perfectly legal. So I don't really see where it does seem a little odd that they have more money. So it does seem a little unfair. You can throw all your money around like that, but that's the world. I don't see, it would be a conflict of interest if they're actually paying legal fees for different attorneys. But if it's, I think that might be under travel or expense or putting them up in hotels and things like that. I think that would all be perfectly okay. I'm sure it happens all the time. I'll have to check on the actual legal fees, because that is a separate attorney representing a witness rights before they come and testify for the defense or the state. I would have to check on that, because I could see that might be a conflict of interest. His forehead is rather large, Liam. He does have this little Klingon-y look. It's true, Jujubee. Even a whisper of this can ruin a life. You're right, Sean. Just on an accusation. I heard the Church of Scientology was coming after all the good cheesecake crust recipes and intended to copyright them. I sure hope not. You are very funny, Sleet. Scottish humor for sure. Let's just okay. That's just rumor. We're not going to blame Scientology for the lack of cheesecake crust recipes anywhere. They got enough going on to worry about. Really. Didn't one of the women report it to the police when it happened and it didn't go anywhere? One of the women wanted to report it to the police. It was earlier than the others, but not it was later and earlier than everybody else, but because of the timing and everything and the lack of cooperation from anyone being able to speak, it didn't go anywhere. This is true. But it was also a problem that they weren't allowed to speak to anybody inside Scientology. When she said, "Who did you tell? Who knew?" They weren't allowed to speak to anybody. They couldn't get anybody to talk to anybody. So there was a little bit of obstruction there in the ability that everybody was told not to speak on it because of this ethic book that says you're not allowed to talk about anybody in Scientology committing any kind of crimes. Yep. I'll tell you. Yep. It's a high crime in Scientology to report another Scientologist to law enforcement. It is. It's specifically listed in there as civil authority. That is the wording that they used, and this is what this is the pressure that they're talking about. Like that something would happen to them if they did it. Like you're just not allowed to. One of the women was told that it was not even an assault if it happened while you're in a relationship. She was told that. Yeah, there is no, apparently. If you're in a relationship with the person, there is no. Well, I got a whole nother stream to do on that one. But yeah, she was told that. That's how offensive this whole thing is. You're not allowed to report anybody above you. And of course, he was above everybody he dated. Everybody he dated was younger, new. Some of them weren't. When he first started with Jane Doe 2, I believe she wasn't even a Scientologist. It wasn't until a few months after they started dating. She was only 18 years old. She became a Scientologist because, in her words, she was required to. She felt she needed to. She was informed she needed to. And she said in the beginning, there was no problem the first year of their relationship. She was in a relationship when her attacks happened. And it didn't happen in the beginning of her relationship. They happened later on. And she was the one who was told that you were not assaulted if you were in a relationship. And told never to use that 4-letter word again, the R word. She's not allowed to use that word in speaking of anybody in Scientology again. And she was told that too. That's her statement that I have read in her statements and charges that were filed. Wrecker, welcome. And I also love the sound of someone's feet being held to the flame. Such a satisfying crackle. And I hope Scientology feels it right now, because they are to blame for this hot mess here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if there is an accused and an accuser, of course, there's the situation that happened. And I'm not negating any blame on either side there. But I'm saying Scientology is what's making this the big mess that it is. I took it as any witness that was associated with the church, regardless of what side is calling them. I'm not sure. Oh, you mean about who's getting paid? It could be. I would say that in regards to the church, because of what the church has people sign these agreements. So in order to testify, it makes it kind of dicey if you're still a Scientologist, doesn't it? Yeah. That's going to make it like, I'm confused as to what they would do in that situation. I'm sure that's why there's lots of red tape of people fighting to come forward that they don't want to testify. Jin, there's the rebel man. I'm going to snub the Church of Scientology by sharing my peanut butter chocolate cheesecake recipe. Sue me. Hey, they will. They will if this rumor is true. But hey, share it. And it sounds delicious, by the way. It does. Okay. You know what? You got a point there, Robski. Might be part of my fascination with them, because I like mob movies too. And I was always fascinated on how they got away with all this stuff. Like, it's such a different way of living, like so different from me or anything I know. And that's what the fascination is, like the danger, the duality of it. They have families and everything, and then they're out like, popping people in the head on a regular basis, cement shoes, covering up crime, running rackets. I don't know. No, it's a slippery slope, Liam, when it comes to Roe versus Wade and now cheesecake. I know. That's not even funny, dude. It's not even funny. But it is funny. This is it. Scientologists readily report their own to their own law enforcement. Not hypocritical at all. No, that's right. Scientologists are told on a regular basis to tell on each other if they think that anybody's doing anything. And, so that they have to go through this whole big auditing process to find out what it is they did wrong in their life, that something bad happened to them. Because these women who are coming forward all had to go through auditing processes to find out why this thing happened to them. What's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? That is why I put the fire under Scientology's feet. That right there, blaming the victim for what happened to them. If that isn't like the worst thing, it is one of the worst things in this case that I've come across. It does, Robski, a little bit like the Vatican, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's mind-boggling, Juju. I'm here with you. And I won't, like, The last cult that I did legally was Nixium, and that was years, and that was horrific for me to follow. It altered the way I think about a few things, and I've had a file, I'll be honest, on Scientology. Judge me or not, for the last 6 or 7 years, and I never spoke on it until this case. But I think maybe as an organization they need to be looked at. But then again, they're scary, aren't they? And people have stayed away from them for a long time. And like, I don't want to ruin my life or anything like that, but there's a lot. And there's some really good people that are delving into, Leah Remini and Mike Rinder. I followed that like crazy. Okay. I read a lot of the books of people coming out. There's some great YouTubers out there. Growing Up Scientology is one of them. And there's a couple of others. I can put together the names for you that can give you the stories on the inside. Mike Rinder's book just came out on what it was like, and he was way up there. And he admits to all the wrongs he did in the name of Scientology and belief. He admits to how warped his brain was and what he did and what the actual horrible things they do as far as tracking people down that are leaving and suppressive people. When you're out, you're out. The retaliation and the revenge that goes on. People are speaking on it. Tony Ortega's been following it like forever. And he's doing some still everyday great reporting. We're going to be counting on him for the trial coverage because he's there, he's listening, he's giving us synopsises. He gave us a 15-minute one today in regards to what happened in the courtroom. Some really great quotes. But as far as an organization, all over the world, they're having issues. I mean, in Australia, they went and tried to qualify as a religion, and they were bounced out once. So I'm not sure if they're back or not. I don't think they have religious status there. Here in America, they do. They are classified as a religion, and they get all the privileges of being a religion, not paying taxes, making all that money, not getting told what to do, even though they're telling everybody else what to do. Other countries, I have to check out. In England, I believe they were having a bit of a difficulty there, and did Ireland also. But it does seem like they're compressing a little and they're holding things in a little bit more. They're not out in the focus as much. But are there still $1 million fundraisers going on? Yeah. An article I read this week proves it. They still have people that were going from $1 million a year up to like $10 to $20 million a year, $30 million a year in donations. One of the gentlemen is the son of some great donators that is going to be called into the trial. He's a friend of Lisa Marie Presley and of one of the Jane Does, okay, and was advised of what was going on, was talked to, probably present at some point during the situation. And he's going to have to come up with right. He's pretty famous. He's got his own recording in a recording studio or a production studio, in California, and he's well known, but he's a Scientologist. He's still active Scientology, and he's going to be called forward. So that's going to be interesting. Okay. Well, as far as like the way people think that their influence has been fading, I don't actually think so. I just think they're getting a little more smart about where they put their retaliations. I don't think they're as swift and blind on everybody. I think they're just being a little more selective. Actually. Let me see if you have any more questions. Yep, Robski, L. Ron Hubbard. I'm telling you, when Dianetics came out, I literally thought it was science fiction. He was a science fiction writer before this. So I really thought it was made up. I really did. I thought it was just a science fiction book, and I really didn't finish it. Yeah, this is what I heard, Liam. If you haven't reported anybody, they think you're getting soft. And they want, like, it's almost like you're required to be tattling on everybody so that everybody gets these audits all the time. And here's the thing. They think you did something wrong and you got to pay for the audit. Like it's a money-making scam. This is the worst MLM religious scam thing I've ever come across. I mean, that's my general point on it, but I'd have to go into it a little bit more. But it is fascinating. It's true. Like even the people that are involved in Scientology come out and they go, "I have no idea. I have no idea." hmm What is scarier, Scientology or Boozy? You mean C Boozy, the guy from Bot Central? Did you hear he was going to make a YouTube channel? He's going to start rating all our channels, like just like he rates our Twitter accounts. Now, listen, my Twitter account, I don't know if you guys ever saw it, but it came up really squeaky clean on Bot Sentinel. It was like 20 something, like low, really low, like no problem, not problematic. I saw those words, but he blocked me anyway. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be biased from his paid client? The Herd Foundation over there. Yeah, could be just a little biased, just a little bit. Non-problematic people getting blocked all over the places if they have issues. I don't know. It's a little weird. Well, auditing, aka victim blaming. Yes, it's the same thing. When you get audited, it's about what happened in your past life. What did you do that is causing this trouble you're having now? Because it's all your fault. It's all in you. It does sound like witch hunts, Sean. Yep, it does. They just keep it. They're making their own members pay for it too. Yeah, there's a presumption that everyone knows something worth reporting, and a lack of reporting implies you have something to hide. This is how they do it. They're just very judgmental. Happy Canadian Thanksgiving. I didn't know it was Canadian Thanksgiving. To all my Canadian friends and everybody out there on YouTube in Canada, happy Canadian Thanksgiving. Thank you, Facty, and welcome. Yeah. Are they a religious group in New Zealand? I hadn't checked that. Thank you, Wrecker. I know Australia was booting them and then they were back. I'll have to look into that. But I'd have to put a team together if I'm going to cover Scientology. I'm not willing to go into another big cult again on my own. Next thing took years, and it was an adventure. And I finally got to do it like twice. I did it with Jay over at Hereticals, and then I got to do a little bit of it on my own. But it was difficult. It was very difficult. Apparently, Hubbard and Robert Heinlein came up with the ideas on a bet. Heinlein invented some religions as part of his fiction. Good to know. Thank you, Sleep. Yes, Boozy's bot is broken. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something on him. The rules over there on Bot Central, Bot Sentinel, they got a little crazy. Please don't judge me, but I'm an ex-Scientologist and grew up in an Eastern cult before that. I was decultified a few years ago and have received post-cult counseling since. I'm not going to judge you at all. I'm going to say that I am happy if you are happy that you are out. I am very happy to hear that you are approaching therapies to help you adjust to being out of what I would call a controlling situation, not in judgment of you, but in judgment of the organization itself. And no judgment here ever, Sarb. And I'd be happy to talk to you anytime if you want to talk about it privately or anything else you want to do. I give you great credit for saying it in public. I know that's difficult, especially in something like this where we are actually talking about Scientology in a negative way. But that negativity does not pertain to you in any manner. As an ex-Scientologist, you are free of that, and you shouldn't be judged for what they do, okay, at all. You should be praised for your strength. You should be praised for taking back your life and living the life you want, whether that be with Scientology or without. So there. And I'm sorry if me speaking on it made you embarrassed, but your comment, it resonated with me. Yeah. Okay, so I think on that we're going to wrap it up because I'm just over an hour now. And if you don't have any other questions on any of them, Daybell, Vallow, Masterson, and or our friend Marilyn Manson there, um, hopefully they won't do what they did last week and all drop stuff tonight. But then again, why should I complain? It just keeps me out here talking to you guys about these stuff. So I'll be back during the week. Yeah, you know what, Turtle Moves? I'm about to slap Boozy's bot. Like, there's some issues with that whole website thing. Like, I gotta look into this. I gotta look. Your space comma. You gotta. You went to a restaurant. Okay. Oh wait, I don't get it. Okay, just like I have to stop reading the chat because it's not to me. Okay. Welcome to the judgment-free zone, unless of course you are pro or con pineapple on pizza. Liam, we are not going to. We're not discussing pineapple pizza. We have to start a whole nother stream for that. Okay. But I want to thank everybody for being here, and I'll see you during the week. You know what? Thank you for that, Sarv. That means a lot, you saying it. And I mean it. You can find me anywhere, Twitter, Instagram. If you ever want to talk, I'd be happy to listen in private, of course. I'm not like that, but I appreciate you being here and that you feel comfortable here. It means a lot to me. Okay. And yeah, the YouTubey things. Everybody like, share, comment. You know the drill. And if you haven't subscribed, please, just do it. Get the notifications. They'll tell you all the stuff that I'm doing because I can't, like, I don't sit here and tell you all the things I'm doing all week. Like, I'm not going to tell you the rest of the week tonight. You're going to either hit the back of the community tab or go to the channel and look or ring that bell so you get the notifications on what's going on when I put things up. And on that, I hope you enjoyed the updates, and hopefully I will have something else during the week I'm working on for you right now, a little more legal, I promise. We also are looking at some other things, and on that, I'm going to say goodnight. You all have a great one.